So the topic of the show was
The episode
arcade.
show.
Topic of the episode show?
Yeah, you need the E. Otherwise, it would just be TOTES.
That's true.
We're not talking about TOTES.
Topic of the episode show. So the topic of the episode show today is arcade memories and arcades in general.
You can go ahead and introduce it, and I'll pull up some of the comments we got.
So arcades obviously were a huge thing in the 70s and 80s, where you didn't have a very good game console for your house. Arcades became a place, a gathering place where people would come and play games like, Galaga and Centipede and all that. But to me, I think that, and part of this is because of my age, but I think that arcades hit the sweet spot in the early to mid 90s, late 90s as well. You had arcade games that there was no way a home console could do, and you had games that were coming out. Mortal Kombat, was out on home consoles, but Mortal Kombat, Virtua Fighter, games like Lucky and Wild, if you ever got to play that game, where you're driving. The idea was you were these two buddy cops, and one person drives and shoots, and the other person shoots. The way that we played it was that one person just drives, and the other person has two Uzis and shoots.
Nice.
But arcades were a really cool thing for young kids to go to and play games that they couldn't play elsewhere. For a quarter or 2 quarters, if it was a really great game, you could go and you could play a game that you could not play at home, you could not play anywhere else. And we're talking about these $500, $1,000, whatever cabinets. I don't know exactly how much they were at the time, but obviously way more than a home console. And you only got to play one game. So it was a really cool gathering spot for you to go to as a kid, but also a really cool thing to do as a gamer. Now, in America, we don't have these as prominent as they used to be. Most of them have been shut down because you can play a PS4 or you can play on your cell phone, and you can play a lot of games that are just as good, if not better, than some of the games that are in an arcade.
Yeah.
Elsewhere, in Japan, in the Philippines, and other countries, arcades are still a huge thing. I was talking to one of my coworkers who lives in the Philippines, and they have a Tekken tournament coming out. It's going to be this Tekken, which he's really irritated about, because basically that means you have to get and practice the new game that comes out, meaning there's no way to practice it now. And the winner of the tournament for the region goes on to the country, goes on to international. There's an international Tekken tournament, and if you get to fly to Japan. If you're the winner, you fly to Japan where they're having the international contest. This is a big thing. And you have prizes. The first place prize is being flown to Japan for that, all expenses paid. Second prize is a PS4, which for the Philippines, that's a very big deal.
Yeah.
So I think that the culture has gone away from it. Now we have places like the Free Play Arcade, and the Free Play Arcade, it's basically a bar where they have all these great games in it. I mentioned some.
And you pay $10 off the top, and all of the machines are set up free, which is awesome. There's one in Richardson now, and they're opening up a new one in Arlington.
Exactly.
Which is.
And I mentioned some of my favorites. Virtua Fighter was the first time I played Pit Fighter and Mortal Kombat, but Virtua Fighter, seeing that 3D aspect was intense. Playing games like the X-Men arcade game, being able to play games at that time, being able to play with 4 people, or sometimes 6 people.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the arcade was really outstanding. Mac the Knife, where you had the little baby in the mech. That game was cool.
Yeah, and this is actually the first time I ever got any experience with virtual reality was in an arcade, because there was no way that you could afford that as an individual in a house. This virtual reality has been something they've been pushing, trying since the 80s. But I remember playing a boxing game on virtual reality in the mid 90s. I was like 9 or 10 years old maybe, and it was not very good. It was disorienting.
Yeah.
But the fact that you were playing virtual reality, you put on a headset and you went into this like area, so that way you weren't like punching and hitting other people. But even though the graphics were horrible, the fact that you could do it was amazing.
Yeah.
So we get some comments on this stuff.
Turtles in Time.
Yeah.
Alex mentioned Turtles in Time, and then he said, as was that game we played together at my bachelor party. This is, I encourage you, if you're doing a bachelor party, find an arcade.
Yeah.
Preferably one with alcohol.
Yes.
Because that is a lot of fun.
Free play arcade.
Yes.
Do it.
But yeah, we were playing a zombie game where you have like it'll actually measure your pulse.
Oh yes.
And so you're trying not to jump at the jump scares, and like it'll blow air in your face, and like it's I don't remember the name of it, but like the entire setup is like I think I looked it up and it was like $8,000 or $10,000 to buy the thing, and I was like, that was fun. Like we sat because we had unlimited play that day, and so we sat and played it for like half an hour and just going through all these different stages and stuff. And then Alex also mentioned Alex Kern, different Alex. We have multiple Alexes. He said Metal Slug, and that's one. I don't know why, but it's more fun in the arcade. Yeah, Metal Slug. Like because I got that for Vita, and then I played it a little bit on the PS3. And it's just not the same. Yeah. Like, for whatever reason, it's so much more fun when it's arcade. The other one genre, I guess, that for me is really entertaining is when you have the space shooters, where you're the vertical scrolling. I like playing those at my house or whatever. I like, but for like in home, I want to play like an R-Type or something where I'm scrolling sideways. Yeah. But the vertical scrolling bullet hell, for lack of, I mean that's just what they are. Yeah. Are for me a lot more fun in an arcade. Yeah, I think they are. One thing that we were talking about games for home versus an arcade. One of the recent pushes that I've hated going to Dave & Buster's is the last. Now back like I mentioned, the mid '90s, you had arcades, you had putt-putt and different places that had these, and you would have basically two different. You either have a game that gave you tickets, or you had a really good arcade game. And the games that gave you tickets were usually crap. Yeah. To play, it was cool to get tickets as you were a kid, but the games that the games didn't give you tickets were usually really, really great games. The last time I was at Dave & Buster's, you had a ton of games that gave you tickets. You had a ton of games that were ports of cell phone games. Yeah. And then a very small subset of like racing games or arcade games. But the fact that they had Cut the Rope, Flappy Bird, what else? Temple Run. There's a Temple Run in an arcade. Yeah. And I've seen that one that we were trying to come up with earlier that's not Infinity Gauntlet. Yeah, that one's there. What's the other one? The one that I was playing, Candy Crush, that I played for a little bit. And the Fruit Ninja. The Fruit Ninja. The fact that these are there and they're charging you, and it's because it's Dave & Buster's, so they charge you credits instead of the actual money. Right. And they do the math weird, so you can't actually figure out how much you're spending. So really you're spending like 75 cents per play or something around that. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm spending 60, 70 cents per play on a game that's free. These are free games. Yeah, and I don't. If you're watching this and you have paid to play those, not in an intimidating way. I'm not going to argue with you. Yeah. I just want to understand. I did this recently, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to do this as a topic of the show. I went to a conference, or Whitney went to a conference for work. Okay. I went with her. They were at a Dave & Buster's, and I was like, this is something I'll do as part of my day of doing nothing, essentially. Yeah. I'll stop by Dave & Buster's, have lunch with her.
and I'll play some games while to kind of kill some time.
Yeah.
And plus it's Dave and Buster's, and I specifically played a few of these games to go, okay, well, how is this different? And it was basically, I was basically doing it as research.
Yeah.
And that's how I ended up getting hooked on Candy Crush for a little bit, the reason that I did it was because I was like, okay, this is actually a good game, but I could go home. I literally went, as soon as I got on Wi-Fi, I downloaded it, and I played it a little bit because I didn't want to spend any more money.
Right.
You can spend money on Candy Crush for microtransactions, but why, for the regular game, why am I spending money? Temple Run was on there, Fruit Ninja. They didn't call it Flappy Bird, it was something else because Flappy Bird's obviously taken down because of all the lawsuits.
It is really ironic that they had to do a Flappy Bird knockoff.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
That if you ever have difficulty with irony and you want to check and make sure something's ironic, that is your litmus test.
It is. Now, and then I brought my nephew to Dave and Buster's to hang out with him, and now I want to find out. I don't know if Free Play Arcade lets in kids. Because there's so many arcade games that he will see a game and he's like, oh, that's kind of cool, and they'll see tickets. He's really liking the whole ticket aspect of it.
Yeah.
And now I was never like that as a kid. I was never a big push of that because I mathematically figured out, wait, okay, I'm spending $20 on games and I'm getting this thing, and I've not done this, but I really wanted to say, if you really wanted that, I'll just buy you that, and we can play some cool games instead.
Right. I will spend $4
on the thing,
CVS or something, and I can get you a little sword,
some candy and a sword or whatever. We can do that, but let's play some really cool games, because there were some really cool games that he didn't want to spend his money on because he wanted more tickets.
Right,
more
because
credits.
there's no tickets for this one.
Yeah.
Air hockey is also one of my favorite things to play at arcades. I like air hockey a lot.
And air hockey falls into that category where it's neither one of those things. You don't get tickets, there are no graphics, but air hockey is really cool.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that I don't necessarily want to I don't really want an air hockey machine.
Nope.
That is just way too much space, but to go and play it, it's awesome. And I actually have a video of Arya and Nora playing air hockey. They're awful.
Yeah.
And they go
But they loved it, didn't they?
Yeah, they had a great time because I was letting them alternate. They could pick which one they wanted to play.
Sure.
And Nora eventually figured out, I can get things. Daddy, which game would get me the most tickets? I was like, oh no.
Oh no.
But I mean that is the way that her analytical mind works.
Sure.
And Arya was like, let's find the fun ones.
Yeah.
And those are different paths. And it's been really fun to see kind of the nature versus nurture thing.
Yeah.
Because they've been raised the same way, they are their individual personalities, which is fun.
And I was gonna say, I go with Whitney. When I go there, she loves some of one of her favorite games to play is the one where it puts in the coin. There's stacks of coins, and you toss in a coin that goes down a ramp, and then you could push out coins, and she loves those kind of things. It's one reason why she said if don't get her near a slot machine, because you have that instant gratification, and there's something cool, there's something simplistic about that, but I think it's interesting, the analytical mind of saying, how do I get the most of these? Because that's one of the reasons why she likes those. You can get so many points on those, or collectibles, and it's a different way to look at it. I always looked at it to say to be about the gameplay. I want to have fun and play the game.
Well, see, as far as ticket games go, my two favorites are the basketball one, and the any form of whack-a-mole.
Whack-a-mole, yeah.
That's what I want to play. There was one when I was growing up.
I love skee-ball. Skee-ball's my thing.
Skee-ball is really frustrating for me because I know that the most difficult one is the one up there in the corner. Yep. But if I miss it, then I'm gonna have the 10
base,
or whatever.
The base
yeah,
level,
and so that's really frustrating for me because I want to go for that one, but I know it's smartest to play in the middle.
Yeah, I like when they give you. There are certain ones that you go to now. They'll give you a bonus, and it's random as to which one is the bonus.
Okay.
So instead of just going for the corner one, Like the bonus could be the upper middle one,
right,
or the actual middle one. And it's like, you get 2 or 3 times the points if you go to this one, and it's random.
I like that. Yeah. But like when I was growing up, there was this little there's a whack-a-mole type thing, except it was alligators coming out.
Okay.
And so every time you hit them on the head, there was a ow, and it was like this, like I can hear it in my head. It was like a very specific sound. So like, obviously we're smart. We didn't use the hammer, so we would just sit there, and that is honestly fun.
Yeah.
And you get tickets for it.
Yeah.
We do have a couple more comments. Chris White said, when I was a kid, I visited the dunes at Lake Michigan, and they had a small arcade which included, again, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, yeah.
I played through the whole game and had a group of people standing around watching. It was a blast. The social aspect of it, and that's something we really haven't touched on much.
Yeah.
But like that's one of the things that's missing.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I like playing couch competitive stuff, because then I get to yell at you when I beat you, and that's more entertaining for me.
Well, you also had people when it came to Turtles in Time, and there was a Punisher game that was very similar. It's the side scroll beat 'em up kind of things. Which, by the way, if you didn't see, did you see the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers game that they just announced?
I have not.
So it is Turtles in Time style 2D beat 'em up, but you play the Power Rangers.
Okay.
And it looks great.
I'll play it.
And we're talking original series, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. But I liked those type of games because the Simpsons game and the X-Men game and the Turtles game, you had 4 to 6 people in the X-Men one. You had 6 in that one, and you could be playing the game and then basically meet other people who are also playing with you, because if it's like Street Fighter, you're kind of up against each other, and you have the old school, you put your quarter down.
I love that.
I'm next.
You're dead. That's my quarter.
Mine. Yeah. That's my quarter. When you die, that's my quarter. It goes in.
It's also fun because if you get good enough, because like I was playing in arcades when Street Fighter 2 first came out, and before everybody knew that Ryu and Ken were the high end, like the strategic players, when people were still trying to figure out, okay, well, Blanca and Guile, you can do these charge up things, and then you can do a really awesome move, and it's like, well, yeah, but I can kick your butt during those 2 seconds because I know what you're doing here.
See, I was good at E-Honda. I was really good at E-Honda.
Yeah.
That was, I think Ryu was like my default. I called him Ryu because I didn't know better.
Right. Now we know.
Well, it's like I used to call it Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah.
And it's Gaiden, but I didn't know that. But I played the heck out of Street Fighter. This was actually interesting. My first time playing Street Fighter we used to be the Ramada Renaissance. I think it's Ramada Renaissance. I think it's now the Omni Hotel off Campbell and 75.
Okay.
So I stayed there when our house in Plano, when I was a little kid, that house wasn't ready, but we had to move down here because of my parents' jobs.
Okay.
So we stayed there for like, I think 6 weeks. It seemed like a lot longer than that.
Well, yeah.
That's a long time for a kid. But they had a little arcade area where they had like 3 games, and one of them was Street Fighter, and I played the heck out of Street Fighter 2. That was my first time playing that, and then realizing it's also on Genesis, because they have a Genesis like a year and a half later, and realizing, oh, that game that I played is on there.
Yep.
And it wasn't as good, but it was close enough. Like the Turtles game, they tried to do that on the NES and the Genesis, and it wasn't as good. Yeah. But I think the social aspect of it is kind of lost, because now we have the online social aspect, but you don't have places like the arcade or the roller rink, which also have arcades. There's one that's still around here. I don't know if you brought the girls to Thunderbird. It's right around the corner, but I don't know how they'll do a roller skating, but like that's a cool memory for me.
Yeah, roller skating is awesome.
Yeah, that's a cool memory for me, that you could go there when you were like 12 or 13. Your parents would drop you off there.
Yeah.
And just go have fun.
It's fun.
I'll go pick you up.
Things.
And I went there with my nephew. They had a Poke-Skate, which is Pokemon's, all this, and I realized, one, that I'm old, and two, that it's still a thing for these kids. These kids are getting dropped off by their parents, and you've got all these preteen and teen running around. I thought that was really cool that it's still a thing.
Yeah. it's just a lot less common.
Yeah, there's only one, I think, in this area is Thunderbird. But
we have one last comment from Houston. He said, I love playing The Simpsons, but Marvel vs. Capcom probably is my favorite of the arcade games. And going back to fighting games and the social aspect, like there were games that I was never any good at, because like Marvel vs. Capcom, like that entire series and like the Alpha series, like because I was fine with, and I knew the layout from like the basic characters. I could figure all that stuff out. And also, spoiler, if you get into like one of the, I think it's the first 2 generations of Street Fighter, then if you're going up against Dalzim, then any airborne attack will hit his hand, will override his hands.
Ooh.
No matter where he is in the animation.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
The later they took it out of the later versions, but they couldn't patch an arcade game.
You can't patch a cab, yeah.
Yeah, so that was really fun. But
that's
like Marvel vs. Capcom is one that's really, really fun for me to watch, because like you have the build up to the super mega, I'm going to destroy the earth to kill you.
When you had, you had the addition of cause I'm a comic nerd. I still am.
Yeah.
But I was a comic nerd as a kid, and the fact that I could see Juggernaut come in there and fight, or Wolverine, and be able to fight Wolverine against Blanca, that's really cool, because as a kid you think of these kind of things. I mean, you want to see these types of pairings, and to be able to do that is really amazing. And that was one of the greatest cabs of all time. Did you play a lot of the classics? Did you play like Donkey Kong when you were a kid? Did you? Okay. Because I played quite a few of those, and they were so much more difficult. But they were, I think, Donkey Kong, Galaga, Centipede. I say Donkey Kong a lot because I think it probably is one of the best when it comes to that era. And I'm glad that when I go into an arcade and they still have a handful of those, it's really cool. But to me, I don't think they're as rewarding, and I can't sit there and play Donkey Kong for like 2 hours. But I could sit and play the Simpsons game. I could play the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game. Those games are still good and still fun right now. The Terminator game with the Uzi, or House of the Dead.
House of the Dead and the shooting games, the light gun games. Time Crisis.
Time Crisis was great. I played Time Crisis, I don't even know, 4 or 5. I don't even know what it was. Played that recently.
I hosted another bachelor party recently, and this is what I do. Basically, I look for friends getting married and look for an excuse to take them out to an arcade. But yeah, for my buddy Alan's bachelor party, we went to the arcade, and we had gone like all the way through Time Crisis 5.5 or whatever.
So cool,
and so apparently what they do there to shut it down is they just pull the plug and all the arcade machines just turn off.
What, like at the end of the night?
Yeah. Like when it comes closing time, they just... And it made me sad.
Okay. Like, did they give you a warning?
No.
Okay,
no.
That's bull. Because if they said, hey, we're closing in 10 minutes, please wrap up. We're closing in 5 minutes.
Nope.
This is a final warning.
Like we knew it was coming, but...
Because if I owned a place, I would do that and be like, hey, 10-minute warning.
Yeah.
5-minute warning. Hey, just to let you guys know, we will be shutting down. Thank you, blah, 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 blah. And then I'd probably wait 2 or 3 minutes just to make sure someone can wrap up, because there's always like that. Okay, hold on. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Then shut it down.
So I think we were on the last stage, but yeah. So let us know in the comments what your favorite arcade game is, what your favorite arcade memory is, and which game did you pour way too many quarters in to finally beat.
I still do that with Big Bug Hunter. Whitney loves it.
Nice.
I don't know why.
All right.
Let us know in the comments.
Thanks.
We'll see you guys later. Thank you for watching this week in our Collective Heads and all the other cool content we've got here. If you like that, subscribe and see stuff like this or different than this, but you'll like it. I promise.
Yes. We only give you the best quality content. We're nerds and we branch out into all areas, so we will pull from movies, from books, from all these different things that we experience and associate it with and put it next to video games. Video games are our main passion. And if it's yours, like us and message us. Talk to us. Hit us up on Twitch. Hit us up on Twitter. Hit us up on Facebook, YouTube. talk to us wherever.
We
don't have a lot of friends.
And we're TWIOCH everywhere, so it's easy to remember. Except for Twitch, which doesn't make sense.
Twitch
TWIOCH Gaming there. But go check us out, and we love you.
Thank you.